The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Apparently we need more handshakes, motions. More motions?
Yes.
More motions. This is not enough.
We need a whole sequence.
We'll
watch
do
some
it.
Blue Jays games and you'll get some ideas.
Lance Phillips, Josh Ryan, The Gloves Are Off. We'll work on that.
Yes.
We'll work on that.
We got lots
Coming
of
up
free time.
this week, Super Bowl 51. You had to know that was coming. Tom Brady, politics, the Rustlers, Sidney Crosby. First, let's start with Super Bowl 51. What a game. What a game. So many great moments. We had the Julio Jones sideline catch, which was incredible. Julian Edelman also made an incredible catch. And what you're watching just a moment ago, Lady Gaga halftime performance, was pretty epic. Lots of good stuff, Mr. Ryan. What stood out to you?
Well, I was going to say when she dive bombed the stadium was pretty memorable, but also that catch by Julian Edelman. I think a few seconds before that, you look at the Julio Jones catch and go, this is one of the greatest catches I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then you almost forget about it minutes later because the Edelman catch all of a sudden is the greatest catch you've ever seen. And to me, that was really along with that whole comeback, I kept going, no way. No way. Every single time they got a first down, every single time they progressed, but that catch really stood out to me as just, wow, I guess it's going to happen. I guess they're going to get this win. Brady's going to get his 5th Super Bowl ring, and the Pats are going to make Roger Goodell eat it.
There was also the fact that Roger Goodell had to hand over the Vince Lombardi trophy to Bob Kraft. Sure, probably the last thing he wanted to do. The one thing that really stood out to me, and the moment that really, when I watched it, I was in awe, and I'm not sure how many other people would have been, was when Tom Brady, after the game, was down in the field like this, and everyone was crowded around him, and it was clear that his emotion was getting the best of him. And he stood up, and LeGarrette Blount was right there, and then Bill Belichick came over and gave him a big hug. I think it really summed up the relationship that those two guys have with each other. It was really a special moment that, for a lot of people, you'd be like, they might glaze over that. But I truly believe that moment will be something that will be seen for the rest of our lives. We'll continue to reflect on that moment where Tom Brady and Bill Belichick hugged it out there on the field. That was an incredible moment. It was incredible.
You've had Jordan and Jackson. You've had Greg Popovich and Tim Duncan.
Right.
Some great duos over the course of history. I think it's safe to say after this game that Belichick and Brady may go down as the greatest coach-player duo of all time, and certainly in football anyway. And despite Brady arguably playing a worse game than he has in previous Super Bowl, as someone was going over the stats the other day, went 37 for 50 in the previous Super Bowl win against the Seahawks a couple of years ago. But this comeback, regardless of what happened in the first half, which was kind of an ugly first half, this comeback will sum up his career and really put a staple in his career, even if he retires right this second.
It was incredible. And what was impressive to me about his game is that he looked almost rookie-ish in the first half, i.e. the game was moving almost too quickly for him. Things were happening and he couldn't keep up with it. And by the time the second half rolled around, it was like the game was moving at half pace. It was like it was in slow motion for him. Everything, he could find people, he could find receivers. Everything was happening so slow that he was able to pick out these things that he wasn't able to do in the first half. The incredible thing, too, was the run. That run he made for a first down, we rarely see something like that out of Tom Brady.
That's true.
Rarely. And at the game had slowed down enough that he saw the opening and he went for it and was able to pick up a lot of yards on that run. And that was impressive to me, how he really changed the course of the game in the second half and how he took control and everything moved at half pace for him.
You know what also changed the game, though, was that coin toss in overtime. So we were having an argument about that in the newsroom here. It just, you don't have, unlike overtime where each team has kind of an equal chance to win in, say, hockey or even in a shootout, there's back and forth. But here, flip of a coin, maybe the Atlanta Falcons score if they get that first try, and instead history will remember the game differently.
That is a debate for another day for sure, because that whole overtime rule is just insane. Speaking of insane, anyone who thinks that Tom Brady is not the greatest of all time is insane. Josh Ryan, is he the greatest of all time? I mean, what he has done is incredible. I mean, even just in the regular season, he's top 4 all time for completions, passing yards, passing touchdowns, come from behind wins. It's amazing what this man has done. And I feel very strongly that the term GOAT gets thrown around a lot. It gets thrown around too often because people like the acronym. But is Tom Brady, has he solidified himself as the greatest of all time?
Well, you just said if I disagree with you, I'm insane. So let's start there.
Let's start there.
Are you
insane or are you not?
I would say I'm perhaps a little insane.
What?
I think it's fair to say yes. Right now, he is the greatest of all time. I think some people could make the argument still for Joe Montana with having no picks in his 4 Super Bowl rings, along with his 3 MVPs, is something to think about statistically. And I do think people sometimes throw around winning as too much of an important factor for whether or not a player is great or not. Aaron Rodgers has 1 Super Bowl ring, but you could make the argument he would have had more if he had played with a better franchise. I mean, he's played on a Green Bay Packers team that's had a suspect offensive line basically his entire run there. Whereas one thing Brady has had that Rodgers has not had is Bill Belichick, who's everyone has established as the one true genius in coaching, and also a steady offensive line. He's always had a good offensive lineman, despite how many players they've changed through over the years. And that's something, you know, as we do that in hockey too, where is this guy the greatest or this guy the greatest. Sometimes being on a great team surrounded by great players makes a difference. And I think with Brady's case, as great as he is, there is the argument to make that he played for Belichick, he played on the Patriots. The year he was injured, they still went, what, 10-8 or 10-16? 10-6 for a 16-game season. They still made the playoffs that year, the year he didn't play. So you could make the argument being able to play on a great team has helped his legacy.
But how great are the Patriots? I mean, that years ago, when he was winning his first couple of Super Bowls, that was they were excellent teams. These most recent teams are not nearly as good as, on paper, they're not nearly as good as what the Patriots of old were with a young Tom Brady, shall we say. But listen to some of these. I mentioned with the top 4 all time. Regular season wins, he is 3 behind Brett Favre and Peyton Manning for the most all time. He's going to enter the season at 183. He's going to get that, provided he doesn't retire, and that's a discussion we're going to have later. Favre has lost 112 games. Manning has lost 79. Entering next season, Brady will be 183-52. He's lost 52 games. I mean, the stuff this guy has done is absolutely incredible. He's the postseason leader in completions with 788, passing yards 8,628, passing touchdowns with 61, fourth quarter comebacks with 6, and game-winning drives with 9. The guy is the greatest quarterback of all time if he ends his career right now. And he's only going to continue to get better if he stays on board.
I'd agree with you, but I do think that I do think that some of it depends on the team he played, and I think had someone else ended up as the Patriots quarterback or had someone else had the same supporting cast, then there's a chance he's not. As great as he is, and I won't even disagree, I think he is the greatest of all time, but if you change a few things in history, it's possible that we look at it differently.
The good news is we're not changing history.
That's true.
That is why it's history.
That's true.
Coming up next on The Gloves Are Off, politics and Super Bowl. They don't mix.